Hello and welcome. In this video segment we will work through step 1 through 8 of tutorial 5. These steps will demonstrate how the geometry of this part is constructed. On the screen is the completed geometry with x0, y0 at the center of the part. To speed up the creation of the geometry, we will use Xform Rotate to create these 6 arcs. Let's get going and start a new part and start at step 1. I'm going to move up to the top left hand corner of the screen and pick the icon for new part. At the center of the grid is the origin x0, y0. For step 1 we're going to create 3 circles. I'm going to move up and pick Create, Arc, and then select Create Circle Center Point. For the first circle, the diameter is 9. I'm going to move up to the diameter section and input 9.0, and then when prompted for the center point, I'm going to move on down and pick the origin. I'm now going to select Apply, and also I'm going to move on up to the top and pick Fit. On to the second circle. It has a diameter of 5 inches. So I'm going to input 5.0, and for the center point, same as before, the origin, the center of this circle. I'm going to hit Apply. For the third circle, the diameter is 3 and it shares the same center point, so I'm just going to move on down and pick this center point. Everything looks great here. I'm going to move on up and pick OK. For step 2, we're going to create a 6-sided polygon. So let's move up, Create, Polygon. Now when prompted, select Position of Base Point. I'm going to pick the origin. Now moving over to the left, number of sides, that's set to 6. For the radius, I'm going to input 3.0. And you can see the radio button is turned on against corner, so everything looks great here. I'm going to pick OK. Now moving on to step 3, we're going to create an arc with a radius of 1.5. Create, Arc, and then this time we're going to select Create Arc Endpoints. The first thing I'm going to do is input the radius 1.5, enter. And then when prompted for the first point, I'm going to move on down and pick this point, and then move over to the right and pick this point. Now the next prompt, select an arc. I'm going to pick the top one. Everything looks great here. I'm going to pick OK. For step 4, I'm going to delete the construction lines. That's the polygon we just created. I'm going to move on up, select all, and then moving over to the left, I'm going to check mark entities, and then moving on down below, I'm going to put a tick mark against lines, and then go down to the bottom and pick OK. And as you can see, we've filtered out all the lines in our geometry. Everything looks great. I'm just going to move on up now and select the icon for Delete Entities. For step 5, we're going to rotate this 1.5 arc. Xform, Rotate. Select Entities to rotate. I'm going to pick the arc. And then move on over to the right and select End Selection. Now moving over into the Rotate dialog box, Copy is turned on, so I'm going to keep my original geometry. For the number, I'm going to input 5. Angle between, I'm going to leave that turned on. Moving on down, for the angle, I'm going to input 60 degrees. We've got it set at rotate, previews on, fits on, everything looks great. I'm going to pick OK. I'm next going to move on up and select clear colors, so everything looks good. For step 6, we're going to fillet the corners, create, fillet, and we're going to pick fillet chains. The fillet radius is set to 0.25. That's exactly what I need. When prompted, select chain 1. I'm going to move on down and pick this arc, and as you can see, everything's been chained successfully. Moving over to the chaining dialog box, I'm going to pick OK, and then move on up here and pick OK. So everything looks great there. For step 7, what we're going to do is translate the 5-inch diameter arc down. I'm going to move into Xform, translate. When prompted, select entities to translate. I'm going to pick the 5-inch circle. I'm going to move up to the right and select end selection. Moving over to the left, I have the move turned on, so I'm going to delete my original geometry. I'm going to do a move, not a duplicate. Number of steps is 1, so that's good. And then moving on down into delta XYZ, I'm going to put in minus 0.125 for Z. Everything looks good. Let's pick OK. I'm going to move on up and select clear colors. But let's now have a look at the front view. This line at the bottom represents the 5-inch diameter circle, and that's a circle that we just translated down 0.125. Let's move on up, get a top view, do a screen fit. Moving on to step 8, let's save the geometry. File, save as, and now you can input the name of your file. This completes the geometry for tutorial 5. Thanks for watching the video.